Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello and welcome to Authors on Mission, the podcast committed to bringing you top-tier insights and strategies from established experts who have achieved success in their fields and wrote a book about it. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Joanne Merrick, author of the new book, Game On, Is Management Your Best Career Play? With over 25 years of global experience helping individuals and organizations thrive, Joanne has delivered transformative leadership programs across 5 continents, 22 countries. She's a founder of The Leadership Recipe, and she combines her expertise in neuroscience with a passion for building management capabilities, drawing on her roles at organizations like Deloitte, Amazon, and Juniper Networks. Her book challenges the traditional path to management, offering readers a practical roadmap to decide if stepping into leadership is truly their best career move. Today, we're going to talk about Joanne's insights to effective management, explore the common pitfalls that lead to leadership failure, and discover how each of us can be more intentional in their career decisions and writing moves. Without further ado, Joanne, welcome to Authors on Mission podcast.
Thank you so much, Danielle. It's just wonderful to be here.
Yeah, definitely. We always love welcoming new people onto the show, and I'm really excited to talk to you about this because I think it's very unique. Well, we talk to a lot of different authors on the show. Many of them talk about business strategies, but what's unique about your book is that it's kind of based on a fictional character. Can you speak a little bit about that just to start off the bat? I think that's so exciting.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I wanted, there's so many great management books out there. I really wanted to differentiate my book from those. I love the title of your podcast, Danielle, Authors on Mission, because I really felt that, this was a mission that I needed to take on even from a very young age to write a book. So the tactic I took to write a book is to kind of create it as a holistic piece. And so Zoe, the character in the book, is actually me at a very young age, although I'm not an engineer and Zoe is. But there's a lot of elements associated with her character that are part of myself. And in fact, in another life years ago, I was a singer. I've sung in rock and roll bands my whole life in all of the countries that I've lived in. And I had a stage name of Zoe Taylor back when I was about 18 years old. So when I was looking for the name of a character for the book, it was just a natural progression to say, hey, let's just bring Zoe back. So it's kind of funny, Danielle, there are people out there that only know me as Zoe Taylor.
That's really cool. And, it's really awesome also that you've been in rock bands and now you're in, the business world and now the writer's world too. I mean, right. What's it like kind of going from one field to the next? For
me, it's been a natural progression. I really think that I've been able to build on the skills that I've developed over the years and to kind of really get to know who I am through the ventures that I've taken on board as well, not the least of which was writing a book, because I think when you do, you really need to dive deep into why you're doing it, why are you putting so much energy, effort, into a piece of work. For me, there needed to be something a little bit deeper. And I truly believe that I built on the skills that I have eventually incorporated into the overall book. It's also a book I wish I had have had 40 years ago, when I was getting into management or looking at kind of taking on the corporate world. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of writers start their books off like that. Like, what kind of tips do I wish I had when I was younger? What's the kind of book that I wish I could have read? I loved that was kind of your inspiration for it. Was there a certain moment that you decided, I have to start writing this book? Or was it maybe a combination of different things?
It was a combination of different things. I actually was 7 years old when I went to my first book launch of a friend of my grandparents, actually. She'd written a book in Australia and invited me along, and I still have very vivid memories of that book launch. And I don't know how, why, where, what, or, whatever, but I just knew at that moment, at that very young age, that I would write a book. I just didn't know what it was obviously going to be about. And, I try to do a few different versions throughout my life, as the rock person, as the or rock and roll, on stage person, as a little bit into my personal life, what was the story that might emerge from there, so I had a couple of tries, but it wasn't until I was in the corporate world looking around myself thinking, wow, I've been in management and leadership development for over 20 years now, and I'm not seeing manager capability really shift in a way that I would like to see it shift. So I tried to come up with an idea that would help shift the needle. And from that perspective, the needle that needed to be moved along was to help managers actually make a cognizant decision to become a manager. Because what I had noticed for such a long time was that people were just falling into these management roles, and arguably for some of them for the wrong reasons. So I thought I'd write a book about it and help them, make a decision that was not only right for their career, but was perfect for their life. And that's what I hope the book does.
Yeah, and I think that's really profound too. It's something that people don't know they need it until they read it, right? And
Right.
it's something you wouldn't know unless you had the 25 years of experience like you had yourself. So for anybody starting off, they can kind of, follow the path of Zoe, see themselves in that role. And I can only imagine that, the choice to use a fictional character also, in a way, helps readers relate to the story more so. I mean, would you rather sit and watch a show on TV or listen to somebody lecture you about the topic, right? So by doing it in a fiction sense, I feel like, it has a level of entertainment value too, perhaps.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm an adult educator at heart, so, there is definitely an educational element to it. I also wanted to make the book as easy to read as possible. It was designed, I run a course called So You Want to Be a Manager, which is the very first chapter of the book, title of the chapter of the book. And I've been running that course for quite some time within various organizations. And part of it was so that I could stand up in front of, folks with my hands on my hips and say, so you want to be a manager, because not all managers are successful. In fact, there's some pretty scary statistics out there that 60% of first-time managers fail within the first 2 years of becoming managers, which is, scary. And I wanted to do whatever I could to kind of, have people feel much more comfortable when they were taking on the management role, and the book was a way to go about doing that. But yes, to your point, Zoe is definitely, the book's definitely written to a certain degree from Zoe's perspective. And at the end of each chapter, Zoe comes in with her personal reflection, which I hope is a reflection that the reader can relate to and follow along with how she's thinking and how she's feeling, knowing that potentially how they're thinking and how they're feeling makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. And, not to say that it's not grounded in research too. I mean, right off the bat, when I was myself, you cite Gallup research. The fact that I wrote down here is managers account for at least 70% of the variance in employee engagement. So it's really cool that you embed that sort of statistics and research within this narrative too. Does that specific statistic inform your own management readiness in any particular way?
Yeah, well, I know that when I have run these workshops, and I've run them for hundreds of people literally all around the world, there have definitely been people come up to me at the end of the workshop saying, you know what, I don't think I want to be a manager. This is just not at all what I expected that it would be. And I've had other people literally receive a phone call from their manager in a break saying, well, we've had a restructure and now you're a manager. they're excited and go into the role with their eyes wide open, as well. So I've had, all of that and everything in between. And I just hope that the book acts as a guideline, as a guiding post for those people that are thinking about taking on a management role, so that when and if they do, that they feel great and confident in their competence to take on what for me is one of the most important roles out there. You know, if you think about it, we all have a manager at some point in our lives, right? It's very unusual for us to leave college or start a first job as a manager. So typically we'll start as an individual contributor and build our skills that way. But then, you know, we get sometimes so good at what we do, or we are in a position where we've had enough tenure that our manager or other leaders within the organization think, hey, you know, Danielle might make a really great manager. Let's put some people under her in the organizational structure and see how she goes. And, you know, then Danielle's in a position where she's got to learn some pretty quick skills, some pretty significant skills pretty quickly, and arguably skills that are very different from the skills that she's had to rely on in being successful as an individual contributor. And so that's reflected in Zoe as well.
Yeah, and you know, first off, what really resonated with me, what you said there, is that you know a lot of it seems to have come from the feedback that you received from giving these presentations. It's just really cool to think about. Has that feedback changed since the book's come out even more?
Not yet. No, the book is so new that I haven't utilized it in a course as yet. But I took a lot of the main concepts from that course, and actually would plan to, you know, run courses in the future with the book supplementing the program. Maybe we would, you know, need to spend the program is a hybrid program. It can be classroom, it can be anything, but I think that it would be really helpful for participants to go into the class having read some of the book, and or they'll have a great resource after the book to refer to when and how they're making their decision. I actually have an assessment in the book that helps them really get some data, you know, into whether a management role is something that they would be good at, really something that they would enjoy doing, and then to assess their management skills. And I also replicated that assessment on my website as well. And there's a 360 element to it, so they can do like a self-assessment, and they can also send the assessment out to a number of other people so that they start to get other people's perspectives of their current management capability and an idea of areas that they can improve on or things that they can start to do differently, as well as their strengths. You know, what are they doing well that they should know about and keep doing because it's working for them.
Yeah, it seems like you have a really well-rounded approach to kind of meeting people wherever they might be, whether, you know, is it right for you? What can you benefit from? What might be the pitfalls? It sounds like that might be what you focus on, is having that well-rounded approach. Is that right? I'm kind of
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try and meet people where they are and, you know, go from there. So my ultimate hope is that larger organizations actually take on the book as part of their talent management strategy. I think that would be just a win-win for everybody, because you know the organization would know that they've got people in management roles that made a cognizant decision to become a manager, knowing everything about the role itself, not just relying on the experience that they might have had up until this point in time in being managed. I think managers, when they do become managers, are much more confident, and obviously the end result of that is significant because it's the impact that those managers are having on their direct reports that makes all the difference. And two of the questions that I actually ask the reader to consider, one, first actually, is what is the impact I want to have in a management role? And the second question is why I want to be a manager. So in the book and in the course, they answer both of those questions, and that ultimately, hopefully, resonates in terms of the impact that they are having on their future direct reports, because there's definitely a ripple effect going on there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, first off, again, this is all really powerful, really insightful, and it's great to know that you touch like a wide variety of people based on wherever they are at, based on that approach. That being said, I would love to transition a little bit into the writing process, because we are authors on mission, and everybody here is trying to write their own books or trying to follow in your footsteps at the very least, right? So I'm curious to know, I mean, this was your first book, so did anything surprise you about the writing process?
It surprised me how many times I had to write the book. I don't know if that makes people feel good or not.
Revisions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I also, for me, I needed to work out very quickly what structure I was going to take. And I'd read, so many books myself that kind of just dive straight into the content, but I wanted to, for me, context matters. So I wanted to set the book up with a little bit of context of why this topic was so important, and then dive into a form of a solution associated with that. I was working full-time while writing the book as well. So it did take me a long time. In fact, 5 years, Danielle. I'm sorry to say. I know people write some books really, really quickly. And to be honest, probably the 6 to 8 months before the book was actually completed was the hardest I worked on it, absolutely. But I do remember a time when I thought to myself, wow, am I ever going to really get this done? Is this going to be a thing? And I had a writing experience where I just took myself off for a weekend away from my family, my pets who I adore, and just put myself in a room in a location that I felt really comfortable, which for me was by the ocean. Mm-hmm. And it's really funny because I couldn't be too far away from my family. It was over a weekend, and they ended up coming up on the Saturday night for dinner, which was a nice way to fill in the weekend. But it did mean that I had some structured alone time to kind of really think through what I was going to do. And it was at the end of that weekend when I had done enough writing and I had the structure in place that it was then hold the mirror up to myself kind of moment where I thought, wow, I'm really going to get this done. And that was freeing. And I really feel like the writing process was a downhill slope for me from there. It was a lot easier once I got all of the strategy and the structure and knew in my own mind what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. But up until then, I was kind of flailing.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of authors who go through that same process. You might have one direction you're going in, you have to revise, you get feedback, you revise again. I get that. A lot of people do struggle with that, and it does take a level of trial and error to find the right thing that works best for you. At Authors on Mission, we're actually an editing and publishing house in our own. So I work with so many people trying to help them find that right place too. But you're just offered an amazing strategy for everybody. It does take a level of that trial and error. Like I just said, you have to find what works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, when you see maybe a house or a building being built nearby, it seems those first couple of weeks or months kind of go by, and you wonder to yourself, wow, is anything really happening? But they're laying the foundation, and they're laying the foundation for something that can be pretty important moving forward. So sometimes taking a couple of steps back to take 3 or 4 steps forward is all that it takes. And then once you're clear in your own mind and your heart what you want to accomplish and what your book is going to look and feel like. The other thing that I was really cognizant of was my audience. Who am I writing this book for? What's their age group? What are they looking for in a book?
So what did you do to first figure out what your audience was, and then also what they might be looking for?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of the research is suggesting, interestingly, that most people are being promoted to a manager role around their late 20s, early 30s. And what's interesting about that is a lot of them don't receive any formal management training around about the age of 40. So for me, that was scary that there are managers out there that haven't been formally trained in their role for, over a decade. So that was scary. I then thought of myself in the context of that audience and wondered whether or not, because as I was growing up, games or gaming was something that was just coming into creation.
Right.
We didn't have a lot of computer games, although I loved them. We had pinball machines and pinball arcades and those sorts of things to go to, but we didn't have, the home computer games like they do these days. So I thought, what might be a topic that would be that would resonate well for that audience that I can reflect on to bring in management content. So that's why I landed with the gaming, with Game On. So Game On is Management Your Best Career Play, is an absolute play on words for the analogy of computer games that a lot of my audience would have grown up with. So that's why I did it that way.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that you adapted it to match that target audience. I mean, you're right, video games are a huge thing these days, so just hearing that, the title itself is a layer of interest, right? Just right off the bat.
It is, yeah. And the backside of that is I'm noticing just since I've launched that a lot of people are calling the book Game On. They're not thinking that is Management Your Best Career Play is the actual title. So, note to self moving forward, that's fine. I can work around that. But that might be interesting for anyone writing a book right now. The title is something that's really, really important. And sometimes it can kind of shift in ways that you had not expected, but you roll with that, and it is what it is.
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit more on the writing process. I mean, I noticed that you have exercises, you have scenarios, you have assessments. I'm wondering, did you have a certain process for developing these tools? Are these tools that you use in your workshops, for example, or is it unique for the book?
It's unique for the book.
Yeah, it's always good to have that sort of thing to engage the reader and check their understanding and give them a call to action after each chapter, right?
That's right. That's, again, lending itself to this audience. If organizations do take on this book as a reference book for their future talent, I wanted to make the book as easy to read as possible and as personable as possible. So technically, at the end of each chapter, after Zoe's reflection, there's the reader's reflection. And in the reader's reflection, I include basically a summary of each chapter, and then I ask the reader to consider a couple of questions themselves for before they move on to the content of the next chapter. So I'm really hoping that they get swept up in this journey that includes Zoe, that is a reflection hopefully of where they're at and how they're thinking. And then when they need to make that really important decision, that they do have a tool to use. It's not a scientific-based tool. It's one that I've created myself and tested with various groups of individuals that I've been working with around this content, and just incorporated that into the book. And as I said, an electronic version of it from my website too, so that they can try it out there as well as complete it in the book as well. It's also in the appendix. But it was important for me that they have something to do, something to think about, something like it's called a playbook, if you like. It's a playbook for next gen leaders, which is one of the taglines of the book, but it's definitely a guide, a decision-making guide for one of what I believe is the most important decisions of their lives.
Yeah, definitely. And well, you did mention also how you had a website, one where people could find more information, for example, about your workshops, your books. Can you share with us some of these links so that we can get in touch with you and stay up to date?
Yes, absolutely. So the website is just theleadershiprecipe.com. And anyone can always email me at joanne@theleadershiprecipe.com, and I'd love to engage in future conversation and answer any questions or share any insights that I might be able to help them in their journey, because I know it's quite the journey.
Yeah, no, it really is, no matter what stage of that journey you might be on, as we've emphasized before. That being said, I mean, what next is on the horizon for you? You have the workshops, you have all this extra material. Is there anything we could be excited to look out for coming up soon?
Oh, it's interesting. I do hint at it in this book, actually, Danielle, but for me, of course, it's another book. I think books are like potato chips. Once you've had one, you can't stop. I
like that. I might use that myself now.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to digging into the next topic. And the next topic, as I said, I do refer to it in the book, but I think certain managers have I don't speak French, but like a je ne sais quoi. There's a quality to them that if I could bottle up and put into a training program, it would be, very helpful for many, many people, I'm sure. So I really want to get to what it is that a lot of really great managers have that is tangible, that folks can kind of really grab onto and replicate in a way that is personal and relevant for them to make them the best managers that they can possibly be. You know, in the book, I talk a lot about emotional intelligence and communication skills and innovation leadership and those sorts of things. I think it's in those areas, but there's more depth to get to. So that's what I'm going to be working on in the not too distant future, and we'll see how we go.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. And again, everybody can kind of stay up to date with that by checking on the links we're going to have right in the description box of this podcast today. So, reach out, even email if you have any questions. So, Joanne, I'm wondering if you have any other last bits of advice for all of our listeners today, be it in the entrepreneurship world or in the writing world, or any other last bits you might want to share with everybody today.
Well, I think the only thing that comes to mind for me, Danielle, is don't give up. Keep going. Part of the journey is going to be hard. Part of it's just going to be like being on that downhill slope, like I mentioned earlier. For me, it was get your structure right, know who your audience are, and then have the book meet where your audience is at. Really put the hat on of your audience and give them something that they need.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that has been reoccurring throughout the show, right? The need to find who your audience is, what they need, really meet them there. I mean, otherwise, how are they going to read your book and get anything from it? It's like teaching, right? And guiding them in the path they need. So, Joanne, I can see that's really a core philosophy for you in your writing and in your other engagements.
Yeah, and I also am very aware of what's going on around me at the time and how I can incorporate that into whatever I'm writing about. And don't be afraid to get personal in that respect, because I think everyone's personality is what creates that uniqueness that readers are looking for. So don't be afraid to pop that level of uniqueness into whatever it is you're writing, because that's what I think people will gravitate towards and be the most helpful, right, at the end of the day for them as well.
And that's at the end of the day, that's what you need, that help actually get the guidance through to them.
Yep, that's right. It's relatable.
Well, also, real quick before we end here, do you happen to have a copy of your book with you today?
I do, actually. Coincidentally, I've got piles of them.
I love it. Oh, there we go, everybody. There's the cover. I love how you have Game On in bold red font. It's, they say it's a way to just like catch the eye right there off the bat, and it gets people wondering, what kind of game are you playing?
Exactly. And when folks see the book, they'll see that there's kind of like a Matrix style background.
Oh, wait, you know what? I do see it at the bottom there, kind of like the grid, right? That's what we're thinking. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think the designers of the cover, and by the way, for anyone who's looking to write a book, obviously, that the cover matters. That's what I learned throughout my process too. It's like, what are people going to pick up off the shelf? And so hopefully they see the Matrix with Game On and they think, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, as much as you always like to say, don't judge a book by its cover, it is something that people are interested. It's something that makes them stop in the bookstores and do a double take, for example.
Exactly.
Or even when scrolling on Amazon. So same thing. Thank you for sharing that. Now we all have an eye to put to it. So again, everybody, please check out the links in the description box. Check out the book. Check out Joanne's website, her email, all of that, and be on the lookout for amazing things to come. It's been, really cool to learn about your straightforward approaches, both in writing and in the business world. Joanne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Yeah,
and all the best for Authors on Mission. You guys are on a mission. And it's funny. One of the quotes from my book is, management isn't just a job, it's a mission.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's perfect for Authors on Mission. I think it's been a lot for everyone to learn today. And to all of our listeners, again, if you want to learn more about Joanne's work, check out the details in the description box. Remember, at Authors on Mission, we're not just discussing experts, we're immersing ourselves in their world and their writing techniques, helping you become an expert in your own right. So if you enjoyed today's episode, check out our others and also check out Joanne's links. Until next time, this is Authors on Mission, empowering you with the knowledge and confidence to excel in your field. Thank you for listening. And again, thank you, Joanne, for sharing your mission with us today.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Always a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.